track-friendly exhaust. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about what is a track-friendly exhaust and what makes them different to what you might just buy as a kind of off-the-shelf aftermarket exhaust. A lot of off-the-shelf aftermarket exhausts are track-friendly. I think a lot of it depends on the car and the track a lot of the time. So different cars, produce a different volume. Naturally aspirated versus turbo cars. Naturally aspirated is usually a lot louder. It doesn't have a turbo working kind of as a silencer in the exhaust system. But then there's a lot of factors. And say the track itself can be a factor. Kind of flybys and static noise tests taken at a track will be different track to track. So the kind of key thing really as to what makes a track-friendly exhaust, as far as I'm concerned, is an exhaust that's actually been noise tested to produce a certain volume and is guaranteed to produce a certain volume. So if you've got a popular one car we know about quite a lot is Astra HVXR. If somebody says they want a track-friendly exhaust, I would always push them into our kind of our full resonated exhaust system, because I know that our single box exhaust system isn't, it won't pass the majority of track noise tests. So that brings us into another subject, which is what is resonated or non-resonated. And the big difference there is usually one or two silencers. So you will normally get a silencer in an exhaust system, and then that will be kind of classed as a non-resonated, and then a resonated exhaust system will usually have another silencer, usually in the middle of the car, usually a smaller silencer as well, and that's what they kind of consider to be resonated, two silencers. Two silencers doesn't necessarily always mean track friendly though. So it might be a resonated exhaust system, but that still might mean with certain cars that the exhaust is just too loud still attached to that car, and it's just not effective enough at reducing the decibels. So that realistically then comes down to the size of the silencers used in the exhaust, and then the kind of design of the exhaust system altogether. So what you'll find from most exhaust manufacturers is that the exhaust they produce is a kind of one size fits all. So it's designed for a aftermarket as an exhaust that's going to kind of produce the noise that you'd want it to it's going to be louder. You don't buy a kind of sports exhaust for it to not be louder than the OEM exhaust, and it's going to be free flowing, so it's going to create more noise. That's generally the idea. You're trying to produce a system that is more free flowing, is going to increase the power or has the potential to increase the power, and inherently that makes them noisier most of the time. So they're not necessarily looking at what is quiet enough to pass noise side track tests. So it's something that is quite important to think about if you're buying an exhaust system, purely because not all exhaust systems that you buy will be, even in fully resonated form, will be kind of track friendly. More silencers doesn't mean quieter or quiet enough a lot of the time. One of the ways that you will make an exhaust quieter is with bigger silencers. So one of the things we try and do where possible is our kind of standard exhaust system is usually with quite a big silencer. So we'll use either a 6-inch body or an 8-inch body. So we've got two examples of those here. And that is, the 6-inch body, it has enough volume in it, as in kind of capacity, not volume as in noise. There's enough space in there to add in, a good quantity of exhaust wadding, and that wadding as the gas passes through that perforated tube that's inside, absorbs that frequency, changes how it passes through, and reduces the decibels that come out of the end. And then the kind of more volume you've got in that silencer, and the longer the gas can travel through that silencer, the better chance it's got of actually doing that job. So with a bigger silencer, you will get more noise reduction. But what also plays a big part is actually, say, the quality of the exhaust wadding that's in there. What we use is a type of exhaust wadding that is pretty much specifically used in motorsport. And in motorsport, they don't really care if it's loud. They'd rather it not be, because they don't want to have any kinds of problems at test days or anything like that. They want an exhaust that's free flowing to start with, and lightweight, but they also don't want something that's ridiculously loud. Usually it's not allowed. Usually it'll be a problem at tracks if it is too loud, even on race days. The further up in motorsport you go, I think the less of an issue it becomes. But I think that's for us why it's really important that we do use the kind of the best stuff we can buy, really, because it does the job a lot better. And you only get one chance to kind of. Most people only will buy one exhaust system, and what they don't want is to then have to kind of modify it, or what a lot of time you see is people bunging the ends up to try and make them quieter, and then all of a sudden you've got a reduction in power. So we really try and kind of stay away from producing systems with smaller silencers that are just kind of designed for purely being loud. The most important thing to us is that it's free flowing and that it will actually do some noise reduction. In summary, really, it's all about the size of silencers that are used, and not to use a silencer that's too small. That's really key. Generally, if you're building a track car, or you want to use your car on track a lot, you'll want the biggest silencer you can fit, and usually two of them. So if it's a kind of single piped exhaust system, you're going to want the biggest silencer you can get right at the back, and then usually in the transmission tunnel or something like that, you'll have a kind of much longer but skinnier silencer where you're worried about the ground clearance right in the middle of the car. And that's kind of a front engine, front wheel drive or rear wheel drive standard setup. You'll want that kind of really long, skinny center silencer with a really big as you can get rear silencer. That is key for a track friendly exhaust with good quality exhaust wadding in it. Sometimes space constraints stop you from actually putting in a big silencer, so that can be quite a common problem on a rear engine car, or cars that are just not designed often for use as a track car. They've been heavily modified, those kinds of things, and all of a sudden you've cut a lot of the floor away, or you've got a much bigger engine or a much bigger exhaust, and there's just not the room to put it. So that's when using multiples of much smaller silencers can really come in. It's just about the kind of overall volume you can get for, to aid noise reduction. And then sometimes it's just a case of you just need to take 2 or 3 decibels off to bring it down to kind of track friendly levels. So if you're at a track where it's a static 95 decibels and your car makes 98, and you just need to take a little bit off without adding too much weight, obviously that's a factor. The bigger silencer you put in, that's more stainless steel, that's more weight, more wadding. It all adds up, and on a track car, weight is crucial. So this is where using a small silencer can really come in. Adding in a small silencer, sometimes in a decat section, if you've got a kind of bolt-in, bolt-out decat section, getting a smaller silencer in there to replace the cat. Still free-flowing, so no cat, but sometimes can be just enough to take that 2 or 3 decibels off that you need.